Hello. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about preparing for the upcoming career fairs, the STEAMIE fair coming up on the 24th, I believe, and then the general fall career fair coming up next month. Just to introduce myself before we get started, my name is David Ortega. Pronouns are they, he. I'm a recruiter with Cidier. We're an education nonprofit. So lucky to and thankful to be supporting Sarah and the CSUN Career Center today to lead this uh, presentation. So I'll pass it over to Sarah to introduce herself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Um, my name's Sarah Lalong. I work in the CSUN Career Center in Bohemian Hall on the fourth floor, and my title is Employment Services and Event Coordinator. I help coordinate the large job fairs and support employers and students accessing employment services such as Handshake and the jobs and internships in Handshake. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, thanks everybody for joining. So yeah, as a recruiter with Cidier, I collaborate with a lot of universities. So I really enjoy doing work like this to be able to pass on my experience, the things that I did and didn't take advantage of when I was in college as well, to, really just pass on that knowledge to equip y'all to for like, academic and career success. So happy to be leading this presentation today. Here are a few objectives that we're going to be covering today. We're going to be talking about navigating both of these career fairs. What does that look like? What does preparation for that look like? What does, viewing that event on Handshake look like? So we're going to be talking about that. And then we're going to be talking about what preparation looks like. Doing your research, creating a plan. What does that day of look like? What does preparing before look like? We're going to be talking about the elevator pitch and taking some time to practice that as well. And then we're going to be talking about different resources you can utilize along the way to prepare for these career fairs. And so it was said at the beginning, but feel free to drop any questions in the chat and we can answer them as we go. And we'll definitely leave some time at the end to answer any specific questions as well, too. So yeah, so hopping right in, is everybody able to use their like reactions? I believe it's probably at the bottom, or if you want to throw in the chat, if you've been to a career fair, just throw an emoji in the chat. Okay, awesome. Okay, I see the reactions or reactions. Okay, so I see a few people have been to career fairs. So y'all have an idea of what those career fairs look like. So yeah, career fairs are really just events where employers and students can connect. So it's going to be employers from a lot of different industries, sectors. They set up a table there to, spread information about open roles that they have, whether they're full-time, part-time, volunteer, internship opportunities. So it is an opportunity for you to meet different employers. There are specific fairs like the STEAMIE fair, which is, STEAM related organizations and companies. There's general fairs. There's maybe education specific fairs. So career fairs can, be industry specific or a little bit more general, like that fall one next month, right? And so it's just a really great time, whether you're graduating this coming spring, this coming winter, or this coming at the end of fall, or whether you're like a first or second year, just looking to get some ideas of maybe some part-time work or volunteer internship opportunities. So it's a really great time to explore different organizations that are out there. Maybe you heard of them, maybe you haven't, and hear about jobs again that you've maybe heard of or you haven't heard of, to get an idea of some stuff that you want to jump into um short term or long term, right? And it's also a great time to network as well. So I do want to name that a lot of these employers will come back year after year. So again, maybe your first, second, or third year and you're going to your first career fair, you're probably going to see some of the same faces over the next few years at these career fairs. So especially if there's an organization that you're interested in, it is really useful to, start building that network, getting to know them, and we'll talk about that as well. And so jumping into and talking about what employers are looking for. So as I said, they are there to get to know you. They are there to talk about their organization and open roles, just as much as you were there to get to know them too. So they're looking for fit on both sides. You're looking for a fit of like, hey, I'm only open to part-time roles right now, or I'm graduating in spring and I'm looking for full-time roles. So you understand what you're looking for. They have an understanding of what they're looking for and what they're trying to fill, right? And so it is also one of the first impressions that you will be making with them. And so I want to say it is the first of many impressions. They will get another impression of you, maybe through your application or through another conversation or through the interview process, right? So it's one of those first few impressions, and we'll talk about everything that goes into making like a good impression on them when you're talking to them at those tables. They're looking for somebody that has knowledge about their organization or an eagerness to learn. And so that's going to go into the preparation, which we're going to talk about on this next slide. And then communication skills. So being able to communicate about yourself, having an elevator pitch, which we're going to talk about today, being able to ask questions about them and learn about them as well too. So it is a really great time to get insight on who they are, maybe how they got there, what do they do in the organization, what are some opportunities that they have, maybe what is some advice they would give somebody to who is applying to that specific opportunity. So it is a really great time to kind of get a little bit of insider information about specific roles and organizations. And then lastly, they're looking for preparation, right? And that preparation shows in a lot of different ways. It shows in those communication skills. It shows in the questions that you're asking, what you know about the organization. I will say they don't have an expectation for you to know everything about the organization. And sometimes, you're just stopping by a table because it looks interesting and you may not know much about it, if anything at all. But your preparation can just still show through your like demeanor, your energy, and the questions that you're asking as well, too. So I would say, don't feel like you have to know everything about all of the organizations. We'll talk about that in a little bit too, and like creating that plan. But that's generally what a career fair is and what employers are looking for. And so, talking about navigating these two career fairs. So, preparation really is key. Preparation helps you feel comfortable. It helps with those conversations and creating that impression. So, the first step of preparation is researching the companies in attendance. And so, one of the ways to do that is to look at the handshake event. So we're going to talk about handshake, I believe, in one of the coming slides. So I'll save that question. But on handshake, you can view all of the employers that are going to be at the specific of fair. Organization like City Year, right? So I am there at every fair in fall and in spring, and so you could research the companies in attendance. You know what you're looking for, right? Hey, I'm looking for a job in engineering, or I'm looking for a job in film, or working with students, or in IT. And so you can see all of the employers that are there and start creating a plan of what employers that you want to visit, right? And so engaging with the employer is part of that preparation. We're going to talk about some questions that you can ask them. We're going to talk about that elevator pitch to inform that engagement with employers. But that first step is research, right? Seeing who's there, and preparing for it, right? So you want to prepare your resume, maybe prepare for a cover letter. You don't have to print out your cover letter usually for these fairs, but maybe if you want to follow up with applying to a job that day or within the coming days after that fair, you have your cover letter ready, right? You're going to update your LinkedIn profile and then come up with some questions that you might want to ask specific employers, and also maybe come up with some general questions to employers that don't know too much. Definitely be open to visiting employers that you don't know for a few different reasons. You might be surprised at the opportunities that they have, or you might talk to an employer to just kind of like warm up and get talking and get comfortable at the event too, right? And so those are a few things. Yes, definitely print out your resume. Some employers will take your resume, other employers might not. Don't take it personally if they don't. I personally don't take or don't take resumes. I just tell folks to upload it online to our application, but some employers will take resumes too. So again, just understanding that employers are gonna have different procedures of how they go about things, might have conversations a little bit differently and be filling roles a little bit differently too. And then definitely dress for the job you want. So get those clothes ready, if you're dressing for like an interview. And so keep that in mind as well. And then start thinking about how you can talk about different experiences and skills that you have too. And so we're going to jump into that in a little bit more detail when we talk about the elevator pitch. But yeah, I'll pause right there. I know I've been talking maybe a little quickly and a lot, so I'll pause while I take a drink of coffee. Any questions about navigating what employers are looking for so far? And then you can see on the right here, the different events coming up as well too. And then feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go as well. Okay, so this picture here is really just an example to give you an idea of what to expect, what for it to look like, what these career fairs are going to look like, so you're not surprised. You see the employers here, a line of students behind these tables. There might be lines, so keep that in mind when you are creating that plan. There might be some employers are have longer lines. Some employers might invite multiple folks to the table. And so, yeah, and then answering these questions in the chat, what makes applicants stand out to me as a recruiter? I would say definitely alignment. So specifically, Cydia, we're a nonprofit, really mission-driven organization. And with mission-driven organizations, I would say alignment with specifically the type of work that we're doing, working with students, specifically working in like under-resourced communities. But I would say alignment with the role and being able to talk about your experiences, right? And so I get a lot of questions from students that they might say, hey, I don't have specific industry experience, but there's ways to talk about any experience that you have, whether it's volunteer work, whether you're working at the bookstore, whether you're working at a coffee shop. There is ways to talk about that experience in a really asset-based way to make that work for you and really sell yourself, whether in an application or in an interview too. And so I would say that is definitely a skill that I'm still cultivating, that we're all still cultivating, through our professional career to be able to talk about your experience too. Another question, if you're interested in a specific employer or company, would you recommend reaching out to them in advance? I would say sometimes employers will send out handshake messages in advance to just say, hey, I'm going to be at this specific career fair. I would say in that case, it's more than okay to be like, hey, I look forward to seeing you there. But I would say focus on your conversation that you're going to have with them at that specific career fair and the follow-up that you have too. And then somebody else asked, where do you find the employers who are at the career fair? So that is a great segue to this slide. So if does everybody have handshake? Could you show with your reactions if you have handshake? Okay, cool. Nice. Thank you. So Handshake is a really, really great resource that you get access to as a CSUN student. So it is a resource where you can see all of the events that are going on at CSUN that the Career Center is putting on. You can see all of career fairs, and it's also a place where you can engage with employers, whether they're sending you messages or they're posting job postings there. So it's a great place to look for jobs as well. If you don't have Handshake, the Career Center can support you with setting that up. You see the QR code here on the screen, and so you can scan that and set up your Handshake. It is a really great resource. And so once you set up that Handshake, you can go to the career fair event page, and there will be a tab that says employers. And you can click on that tab and you can see all the employers that are joining, and it'll give you a little bit information about each employer too. Okay, and then so that's a little bit about Handshake, really great resource. Esther from the Career Center just dropped in the chat where you can see that list of employers through logging in through your Handshake account. So definitely utilize that. And so when navigating and preparing for this career fair or for any career fair, right, you really want to review that list of employers that are going to be joining. And that's really going to inform the plan that you make. So it's great to create a plan and set some goals. So maybe an example of a goal might be I want to talk to 10 employers. I want to get five business cards, or I want to pass out five of my resumes, or I want to learn about one new company that I didn't know about before coming to this. So those are examples of some goals. With creating that plan, you can start creating a plan now, right? You look at that handshake page, you see all the employers there, and part of creating that plan is like, okay, I want to visit these 10 employers because they align with the type of roles that I want to join, or I'm looking for part-time roles and I see these employers might be offering part-time roles too. And so ways to create that plan, let's say you go on that handshake page, you're on that employer tab, you see a company like Cydia, right? You click on our website, you can see the types of roles that we offer. You can check their career page. Typically, when you go to a company website, there might be a tab that says like work with us or join us, or if you scroll all the way down, you can click careers and see what positions that they have available. And they also might have job listings on Handshake too. And so part of creating that plan is, maybe you see that job listing on Handshake and you're going to ask some specific questions about that specific job listing. And so I think it's really important to create a plan. So you kind of have that framework in place of the tables that you want to visit. I will say definitely be open to just going to tables. Maybe they don't have a line, or maybe they just look really interesting, right? And you don't know anything about them. They might not be on your plan, but as I said before, you might be surprised about the opportunities that they have that might align with what you're looking for. And it also gives you a time to be able to ask questions and kind of practice your elevator pitch and get comfortable talking to employers. And sorry, like trash can is coming by, so I think it's not too loud. But yeah, so that's part of creating the plan. And I will pause because the trash can is really, or the trash truck is really loud. 1 second. And so, okay, so with creating that plan, I do want to add as well, when you show up to the event on the day of and you're signing in at the front tables, you typically will get a like brochure or a flyer with all of the employers and where they're set up to. So I would also recommend, the day of, let's say, you sign in, you get that sheet with all the employers, feel free to step away for 5 or 10 minutes and like, update that plan, just see where they're at. And I would also recommend if there's an employer that you really, really want to talk to, leave them, for maybe that middle of that plan. Again, just so you get warmed up and you're feeling comfortable with that too. And then also part of preparation is developing questions to ask employers. I'll have a list of sample questions. You don't have to ask those questions, but we'll kind of go over them when they're there. So develop those questions that you want to ask employers, and you're also going to start practicing your elevator pitch too. And so with those questions, keep in mind that it is a time to get a little bit of more information about maybe what they're looking for. Maybe you're asking the person behind the table, hey, what is something that supported you or helped you get this role? Or what advice would you give to somebody who wants to work in this organization? And understanding also you want your questions to be informed by, showing that interest and showing that preparation. So one way you might do that is say, hey, I noticed you had a job posted on Handshake, or I noticed on your company website that you were working at this specific project, or that you had this role on your website. Could you tell me a little bit more about those qualifications or what you're looking for in someone to fill that role? And so with that being said, I will take a little pause right there before we jump into um, the elevator pitch. And so I see somebody put the number, how many copies of your resume. Esther put in there, it's really up to you. I would say maybe 5 to 10. Again, once you create that plan, you kind of have an idea of how many you want to print out. And again, as I said, not all employers are going to take those resumes, but some definitely will. Okay, so talking about the elevator pitch, so the elevator pitch, I think this slide is a little bit jumbled up, but perfectly okay. So the elevator pitch is really a pitch to get to know you. So one second, I think we have some mix up on the slides. Um, so we're going to rewind before getting into the elevator pitch, talking about different sample questions, right? So again, I've included these sample questions really as just a jumping off point for you to get an idea of things you might want to ask, right? So questions show a few things. They show preparation and they also give you some answers to questions that you might have. They give you a little bit of insight on different roles or what organizations might be looking for to fill a specific role. And so some of the questions you might ask about entry level career opportunities, again, understanding what your goals are and what you're looking for is really important. So maybe you're looking for only part-time stuff. So you ask about any part-time positions, right? What kind of summer experiences do you offer? You could ask them about themselves, right? So some really great ways to get people to comfortable and opening up is really asking them questions about themselves. What do you like about working here? What was your career trajectory like? So in these conversations, it's also you can get insight about different career trajectories to get into specific organizations, sectors, or industries. I think a great question to end the conversation as well is asking, how do I best follow up with you? Is it okay if I send you a follow-up email? Is it okay if I connect with you in LinkedIn? I wouldn't ask everybody to connect on LinkedIn, but maybe you have a really great conversation and you say, hey, I really enjoyed this conversation and I'm really interested in potentially working for your organization or in this sector one day. Is it okay if I connect with you on LinkedIn? And so we have a question in the chat. How do you stand out with the conversations? So we're going to talk about your elevator pitch, which is going to help you stand out. But I think also having great questions and showing your preparation through these questions and through that conversation is going to really help you stand out. And I really do like that you added that it is a conversation. So again, you're having that exchange on both sides. You're asking about them, about their organization. Hey, could you tell me a little bit more about your organization? I see it is an education organization. Could you tell me a little bit about the students that you're working with or what schools that you serve? So that might be other questions as well too. Next question, as the recruiters there will be taking so many people, all of them will be directing the conversation in similar directions. Yeah, so that's a good point too. So employers, recruiters there are there to talk specifically about their organization, and maybe they're there to specifically fill one or two roles and probably more, right? But so they are really going to try to direct the conversation, and that's perfectly okay. I will also say you have some power and you're also in the driver's seat to direct that conversation through your elevator pitch and through the questions that you're asking. So just because they're like, hey, I want to talk about this one part-time role, doesn't mean you can't ask about other roles. Employers there, again, are really, really nice. They're really there to answer your questions too. So that is another way that you can direct the conversation into other ways too, or into other directions. Okay, so the elevator pitch. So again, throwing it back to all of you by a show of reactions. Who knows what an elevator pitch? Who has prepared an elevator pitch before? Okay, I see a few. That's good. Okay, so the elevator pitch is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a pitch about yourself, right? To let somebody get to know you. And it really goes back to, I don't know, imagine it's like the 90s and you're in downtown LA in like a big skyrise building and you jump on an elevator and there's somebody in there that maybe works on a floor above you or a few floors above you, and you have the length of that elevator ride to pitch yourself of, about why you might be qualified for that position or, to work with them, right? And so we're kind of like taking that scenario and applying it to different scenarios. And so you might have an elevator pitch with the professor, you might have an elevator pitch that you use at a city council meeting, and But right now, we're going to talk about your elevator pitch specifically when talking to employers at career fairs. So, you are telling a story about yourself. You're leaving that impression, talking about who you are, what you do, what experiences that you have, in about 30 seconds or less, right? And typically also this might also be spread out throughout the conversation. So maybe you're going up to a table and introducing yourself. Hey, my name is David Ortega. I'm an English major, looking to get into education, and I noticed your table is an education organization. Could you tell me a little bit more about the roles that you offer? Can you tell me a little bit more about how you got into your specific role? And so, again, you're selling yourself as quickly and succinctly as possible. It's really concise, easy to understand description of who you are, and it is tweaked and personalized from time to time too. So, what you highlight with one employer might be different than what you highlight in another employer. So, I noticed somebody put talking about switching industries. So, maybe you are interested in a few different things, right? You're interested in education, but you're maybe also interested a little bit in coding too, or in IT, right? So the things that you highlight might be a little bit different. You might highlight the same experience, but talk about it in a different way too. So again, elevator pitch is a really, really important tool that you're going to be using in that like professional development tool belt, to talk with employers. You might also have a version of it in an interview, right? Typically in an interview, they might ask, tell me about yourself. And I used to hate that tell me about yourself question because I didn't know how to answer it, but it really is just kind of an elongated version of your elevator pitch, a little bit more details in that, talking about who you are, and your experience, right? And some framework and example that I'm going to give you before we get into a little bit of practice. And so, an elevator pitch that I might give you, right? My name is David Ortega. My pronouns are they, he. I'm a recruiter for an education organization called Citier, and we're really working to, support students' communities in 29 locations. So I support with the recruitment of student success coaches for all of our 29 locations nationwide, where I specifically work with and collaborate with 10 universities throughout Southern California, including CSUN, but all the way from UCR and Cal Poly Pomona up to UC Santa Barbara. And with that, I really work with career centers, student organizations, professors, and other campus organizations to spread the word about our organization, while also doing events like preparing for career fair or supporting students with resume workshops, or setting up panels, right? And so I really enjoy having these conversations where I can do workshops and add value to students' experience, to really equip them to be, academically and professionally successful, whether they're interested in city or not. And so this leads me and to, wanting to apply to higher education jobs. And so, my goal is to get into higher education through all of this experience that I have working with universities in my current role as a recruiter. So that was maybe about 45 seconds. But that's like an example of an elevator pitch, right? So you're talking about what you do, who you are, you're a CSUN student with an English degree, or you're graduating in English in 2 years. And you have all of these skills. I have experience working on a team, collaborating with people, managing multiple responsibilities through my experience working, at the Career Center and supporting Career Center efforts and connecting students with different resources on campus, right? I really enjoy working at the Career Center and supporting students because I understand the importance of career resources in like a career, in navigating like your career path and like post college opportunities. And so with that, I'm looking to, work in education, or I'm looking to utilize these skills in working for your company doing XYZ. And so with that being said, some framework that we had on this last page. So talking about what you do, who you are, why does it matter, and why do you do it? Keeping in mind who your audience is. So as we talked about on a couple slides ago, that elevator pitch might look different depending on who you're talking to. So who is your audience? And you might not always know who your audience is specifically. Some of the people behind these tables are going to be general recruiters who are recruiting for all these types of roles, and they might not have the specific answers that you're looking for a specific role. some of these people behind, some of these employers behind the tables might be somebody that is going to be your manager, right? Or is going to be on the same team that you're working on. So they might have a little bit more specific answers to particular roles too. So keeping that in mind, and again, that's going to really be informed by the questions that you ask, and you're going to get a little bit more idea of who you're talking to and thinking about what your goal is and ending with an ask too. And so again, as I said before, one of those sample questions that ending with an ask could be, hey, is it okay if I follow up with you? After this to set up an informational interview. I really enjoyed our conversation. Or maybe you're just saying, hey, I really enjoyed our conversation. I'll definitely be submitting the application by the end of the week. And so that can be your goal or that follow-up too. And then I think also thinking about the skills and experiences that you have. Again, going back to what I said, a lot of students have told me, hey, I don't have specific experience in the industry that I want to get into. And I feel like, I'm unqualified or unprepared. And so what I say to you is that you are doing so much and to really give yourself more credit for all of the stuff that you're doing as a student right now and all of the things that you're involved in, right? There is ways to talk about anything that you're involved in really that asset-based way on your resume and in an elevator pitch and in a conversation with employer to really sell yourself. So um, really breaking it down to the skills that you're using and connecting it to that specific role that you want to apply to. And so with that being said, if you scan this QR code, you'll get an example of different framework that you can use for your elevator pitch. And so I know this is a really big thing. So I'll pause right here and then maybe let's give y'all a few minutes to start thinking about these questions and creating that framework for your elevator pitch. Um, so yeah, let's take maybe 4 minutes to start answering these questions. Again, scan that QR code. And also in the meantime, feel free to drop any questions that you have about the elevator pitch or anything that we went over too, because I know have gone over a lot and the elevator pitch is kind of a big thing too. Yeah. Any questions about the elevator pitch, how to structure it? Any questions? Is that QR code working for everybody? Okay, awesome. See some thumbs up. Thank you, Jalen. Cool. We have a question in the chat. How long is a typical conversation when approaching someone at a career fair? So that's definitely going to vary. I'll say a few things on that. Is definitely be aware of how many people might be in line behind you. You don't want to be there talking to somebody for 10 minutes. So I think that's just kind of career fair etiquette. But maybe you go to a table and you're having a really good conversation. I've had conversations for a few minutes with folks, maybe even longer. So I would say, like 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes max, but around 2 to 3 minutes is probably average. And then again, that's going to be dictated by the questions that you have, the conversations that you have. But I will say if your conversation is getting a little bit longer, if you notice some people behind you, feel free to make space for them to come in or, again, ending that conversation if there is a long line. Just again, that's going back to that like career fair etiquette. Yeah, thanks for that question. But again, thinking your elevator pitch is probably around 30 seconds to a minute too. All right. And by a show of emojis in the chat, drop an emoji to describe how you feel about creating this elevator pitch. And then I see the question about Why does it matter? So why does it matter, I think, is a point of your elevator pitch where you can add a little bit about what you do. So if I'm talking about my role as a recruiter, it matters because I support with the recruitment of our nationwide organization and 29 sites, right? But if you're talking to yourself as a student, maybe I use English as an example because I have my English degree. So, my name's David Ortega. I have an English degree. And I'm not going to probably say this matters because, but in this context, I'll say, this matters because I've cultivated a lot of skills where I'm comfortable communicating in a lot of different ways, from giving presentations to writing essays, which allows me to communicate through a lot of different channels as well. And so that's might be some way that you can describe why it matters, talking about specific skills and maybe specifically tying it into that role. Does that answer your question, Precious? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're a few minutes in. So definitely keep thinking about that elevator pitch. Practice it out loud, maybe record yourself, practice it with a friend. It's going to look a few different ways and it's definitely going to transform. So reading it out is going to sound a lot different than when you're there talking to an employer, and that's perfectly okay. Let the conversation go where it goes, and really remember that it is a conversation and you're really just trying to get to know each other too. And again, sell yourself a little bit. So, hitting those points that you want to hit. So maybe you're introducing yourself and you're not getting immediately to those skills, but you're asking a question and they're saying, hey, we're looking for somebody who has experience working with a specific coding language. And you can say, oh, I've, taken many coding classes and I know this coding language, or I have experience with this coding language doing XYZ. And so I think, yeah, just being patient, let that conversation unfold. With that being said, I will pass it over to Sarah to talk about different resources you could utilize.
Thank you, David. Um, so um, for the resources, the Career Center has a lot of resources for students to use. All of our resources are housed in the Career Link system, which is a career education platform. Um, you can find Handshake, Vault, LinkedIn Learning, as well as job search preparation resources, a resume guide, interview basics, and dressing in workplace ready attire, as well as Maddie's Closet. Handshake, you can see all the employers that are attending the event and the jobs that they're listed with those employers. You can find their link out to their websites. They're not always a direct link to their careers section, but you can usually find that in a section at the bottom of the page called careers, or at the top of the page, like why work here, or sometimes it might be written differently, but there's usually a way for you to find their page for hiring and recruiting. Um, we also have the career fair, which you can register for and update your profile and make it public so that employers can network with you leading up to the fair. And so updating your profile in Handshake. Um, and with the Muse, this is they publish a lot of like career ready resources, and you can get insider tips about career development, career growth, job searching, workplace skills. Vault has career guides and industry insights. You can research employers, company rankings, and workplace culture reviews. And LinkedIn Learning, as a CSUN student, you have access to LinkedIn Learning. And if you live in the city of Los Angeles, you can also get it through the Los Angeles Public Library. But LinkedIn Learning helps you build in-demand professional skills. Let's say you're an art major, but you want to go into uh, administration. You can take a course on Excel, and you can take courses on coding, leadership, and communication. Maybe you're a computer science major and you want to build communication skills. You can um, add to your existing skills to boost your competitiveness in the applicant pool. You receive certificates of completion, and you can put them on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile. And so those are for the resources. Can we go to the next slide? For workshops and events, the Career Center has a semester-long series of workshops and events, and we have a lot of workshops about resume writing, interview preparation, professional branding, and networking strategies. We have several career fairs this semester and employer info sessions like with Autodesk and Panda. Um, and um, yeah, they're great ways for you to connect with your career center counselors and staff, as well as employers reaching out, wanting to network with students and potentially gain employment from some of these events. Can you go to thank you. So for this slide, you might want to take a picture of this or a screenshot of this. It has our hours of operation, where we're located. We're in Bohemian Hall on the 4th floor in room 413. We have fall drop-in hours on our website. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see the schedule. They're in person and virtual. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the Career Center homepage, and the drop-in schedule is all the way at the bottom. You can come in person or virtual depending on the day. And if you need to schedule an appointment, you can call the Career Center or email the Career Center to schedule or come into the Career Center to schedule a career counseling appointment. And CareerLink is accessible 24/7, so anytime. We also Please follow us on Instagram. We have an amazing multimedia coordinator and staff who post really cool content about the Career Center services and events that are coming. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Can you go to the next slide, David? Thanks. Oh, and do you want to speak for this, or should I? This is
Yeah.
David. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, this is just my information. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions about this presentation. I'm more than happy to help. As I said, I'm really here like as a resource, and I really enjoy working with students in this way. Feel free to visit us at the City Year table too. If you want to practice your elevator pitch, I can give you some feedback there. Definitely visit our table there. I'll be at the Fall Career Fair in October. If you are interested in learning more about City Year, that's what that QR code is. So that's like our full-time role working with students. If not, no worries. Feel free to just send me an email. So yeah, thanks for having me. I do see this question in the chat. I'm graduating spring 27. Don't feel fully ready yet. Should I still go to the job fair? I will say definitely yes. Going to the job fair, yeah, it will benefit you to start engaging with employers and also build that comfort in those spaces, right? I think part of having these conversations with employers is feeling comfortable in those spaces. And so um, come spring 2027 or come, your last year at CSUN, you already have that experience and you know what to expect, and you already have practiced your elevator pitch, and asking questions to employers and having those conversations. And then also, you'll definitely learn about employers that you don't know of. There are so many employers and jobs out there that we don't know exist until we start working in them or we start having those conversations with different employers too. So I'd say definitely career fairs are there for any year, undergraduate student, graduate student, and you also might find some, opportunities that align with kind of what you're specifically looking for right now. Yeah, I will go back to that Career Center page. Definitely visit the Career Center. You're paying for all these resources. You're all here right now, so you're already making great steps to utilize all these resources too. So you should be proud of yourself for that. But definitely there are so many free resources that you get as a CSUN student. So make sure you're talking to your career counselors, you're utilizing LinkedIn Learning, all of the career resources and events that are on campus too. And so that's really the end of our presentation. So we'll leave some time for any questions. And Sarah dropped the link to the career link page. Thanks y'all for joining.
Thank you, David, for giving us your time today and helping the students navigate the fairs, the ones that we're having this semester, but also preparing them for the ones that we'll be having in the spring semester. I appreciate your partnership with us and for all the insights you provided and answering all the questions that the students have presented.
Yeah, thanks y'all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. And thank you all for joining today.
And we'll be providing the slides to those that attended the event today. So we'll be sending that over to you. I logged in late. Was it recorded?
Yes, it is being recorded. I do want to just answer, there's one more question about preparing for online job fair, if it's vastly different. One thing that I want to say that does make it different is that you want to make sure that you have good lighting, that you have all the technical aspects ready to go. Depending on the platform you're using for the career fair, you'll need to give access to your audio and video. That's an issue I see a lot for virtual fairs, is like students like will get a pop-up for like allowing access to their like audio and camera, and they'll deny it and then they can't join the virtual career fair. So making sure that you have that set up so you can access the audio and video in the at the career fair, and and there's no one around you distracting you, and you're still dressed professionally in a virtual fair as well. You want to make sure to have your camera on. Yeah, those are some tips just that I'm thinking about.
And it's the same in the sense of preparing yourself for being asked, why are you interested in this organization? What you bring to the table. So that preparation is still the same. Obviously, when you look at the nuances of being online, making sure that your background is clear, that you're appropriately addressed, all of that. Because again, those are all different tips that employers look at, so have your Zoom picture, professional. So there's a lot of different things that employers look beyond, look at the camera, then be looking down in terms of reading your resume. If they ask you questions, you're still engaging with the individual as if you are in person. It's just through a camera. And
You make eye contact with your lens too.
Yeah. Yeah.